This podcast is sponsored by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. Free free. There's also creation tools that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. I actually use Anchor for this podcast, and it has saved me a lot of time and energy because everything is consolidated in one place. It just makes it so much easier. So if you're interested in doing the same thing, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Once again, you can download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey y'all, my name is Christian. I'm a millennial, and this is the Millennial Mind. Millennials get a bad rap for being lazy, non-productive members of society. They are also told that their opinions are warped and that they don't matter. This podcast is designed to express an opinion, but from a millennial's perspective. We will talk about everything from love and relationships to pop culture to pretty much everything that comes to mind. Come join me on this journey of speaking my mind, and I hope that all of you are speaking your mind as well. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of The Millennial Mind. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey of speaking my mind, and I hope that all of you are speaking your mind as well. Listen. Have you guys seen the interview with Oprah Winfrey, Prince Harry, and Meghan Markle? Child, when I say that interview was juicy, it was juicy. Now, if you have not seen the interview yet, pause this right now, watch the interview, then come back and unpause this episode and listen. Because this interview just had a lot of juicy stuff that was in it, okay? There were a lot of shocking truths, and I should say some shocking and some not so shocking. But I think it was more shocking than not because it was coming from the horse's mouth. It wasn't coming from a media outlet. It was actually coming from the people who have experienced what we're about to talk about. But before I dive into that, for those of you all who do not know who Prince Harry and Meghan Markle is, let me give you guys a Spark Notes version of who they are. So Prince Harry is the grandson of Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth is the Queen of the United Kingdom. So England, Scotland, etc. Queen Elizabeth, she has a son. His name is Prince Charles. Prince Charles, once Queen Elizabeth passes away, Prince Charles will be next in line to take over the throne. Prince Charles, he has two sons. One of them is Prince Harry. The other is Prince William. Prince Harry is the youngest of the two boys, so he doesn't have a right to the throne unless somebody wipes out Prince William and all of his kids, for the most part. Once Queen Elizabeth passes away, then it will go to Prince Charles and Prince William. Prince Harry, he does not have a right to the throne at this time. So if any of you guys have been following the royal family, as we like to deem them as, which they are, but I know a lot of people in the United States, um, they give them the name of the royal family. Okay. So if you've been following the royal family, you know that Prince Harry, he was kind of a rebel. Okay. He was a rebel, kind of went against the grain. He did not necessarily go the route that his brother took. His brother was a little bit more conservative. Prince Harry was definitely the liberal one out of the two. He was a party boy. I remember seeing articles about him partying and doing some things that he probably wasn't supposed to do. But he was definitely the liberal one out of the two. He met Meghan Markle on a blind date. Meghan Markle is an American actress. Oddly, I never heard of her until she started dating Prince Harry. Apparently, she was in the TV show Suits, and I've always wanted to watch it because it's a lawyer show, and I'm a lawyer, so it's like, okay, that fits, but I just never took the time to watch it. Apparently, she was on that show, and I have yet to watch the show. So maybe this episode will give me the initiative to watch it. But anyway, she's an American actress. She's also mixed. Okay. She's half black and half white. Okay. So we're putting things in perspective. Okay. Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, they went out on a blind date. They really hit it off. They wound up courting, and then they wound up getting married, which for this monarchy, it was the first time that a person of color was ever involved on that magnitude. That's my understanding. If it isn't, please correct me. But it's my understanding that in the royal family, this is the first time that a person of color, and I should say more specifically, an African American woman, though she was mixed, but we all know that if there's a drop of black, they're black. So that's why I'm saying African American instead of mixed. But this is the first time that an African American woman has been a part of the royal family. Okay. So after they courted, they wound up getting married, and Meghan Markle left her life in the United States, moved to London, where she assumed her duties by her husband. And that's when things started to go south. I just remember always seeing like articles, negative articles about Meghan Markle. I'm like, why are they on her like that? Just ish hit the fan for the most part. Then all of a sudden, I believe it was last year, we get the news that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were stepping down as active members of the royal family. We was like, wait, what? What the heck is going on? Basically, this interview discusses what essentially led up to them stepping down as active members of the royal family. And I actually did a podcast episode on that. It's in season 1, episode 18. So, like I was saying, this interview pretty much just entails the events that led up to what they did last year. And child, let me tell you, there was a lot going on that we did not know. Of course, when we saw Meghan Markle getting married to Prince Harry, we was like, oh, this is just a Cinderella story. Well, not really Cinderella, because Meghan Markle, she had a little bit of money, but the idea of Prince Charming sweeping you off your feet and you living happily ever after, Well, that wasn't the case. So let's dive in. I want to talk about like a few things that I gathered from the interview, and we'll go from there. Okay. First thing that I gathered from the interview is that poor Meghan. Meghan, she went in very naive. Okay. She stated in the interview that she didn't research her husband, nor did she research what it was like to be in the royal family. Okay. Girl, first of all, if I was going to be a part of a royal family, and let's back up like before then, if I'm dating someone, I'm gonna do my research. I'm gonna see if they have a record, what kind of person they are. Are they still married? I, that's something I'm looking up. If they say that they're divorced, like, are they really divorced? Like, I'm gonna look that up. She said she did none of that, which is kind of hard to believe. But you know what? I'm just going to take her at her word for that, that she never, ever looked up anything on her husband. She never did a Google search on Prince Harry, but I'm going to go with it. Now, okay, that's that part. But then knowing that he's a prince and you're courting him and eventually are going to marry him, the next thing I would have done is like research how to conduct myself as part of the royal family. What needs to be done? What is the royal family about? How does it work? She said she didn't do that either, which I'm like, girl, you didn't look up nothing. Like, you didn't ask nobody, you didn't ask no questions, you didn't ask nobody from the royal staff, like, hey, I'm gonna need a crash course as to how I'm supposed to conduct myself in the royal family, like nothing. And I believe in the interview, she said that it wasn't offered to her. Girl, I would have asked, like, hey, I need to know. I need to know how to curtsy. I need to know what to do, when I'm in the presence of the queen. I need to learn the national anthem. I need to know all of that. Apparently, she did none of that. So she went in very naive. She also said that she relied on the institution. So the institution meaning the monarchy. And I'll just leave it at that. She relied on them, who said that they would protect her, and they essentially didn't. Now, that's something that I can't necessarily fault her on, because of course, when somebody, and especially when the institution is comprised of some of your family members, and when they said that they're going to protect you, these are your future in-laws, you're going to take them at their word, because you have no reason at all not to trust them unless they've showed something previously. So I don't fault her for relying on that statement, because she's going in with guns blazing. She's ready to do what needs to be done. But it turns out that there was no protection, and she was kind of left out there for the dogs. So I really felt bad for her. I also kind of think that she thought that she would go into this while still having a say as far as her relationship is concerned. Now, I'm not too privy on the rules and regulations of the royal family, but I could kind of infer that if you're a part of the royal family, there's certain things that you can and cannot do. Okay, your life is not your own. That's kind of implied. I think she went in thinking that that wouldn't be the case. And of course, she she was in for a huge awakening. I believe she thought that her relationship was going to be hers and hers alone, and that she could do whatever she pleased while still being a part of the royal family, and that wasn't the case. It seemed like it started earlier on with that mindset because I know that she stated in the interview that she got married 3 days prior to her wedding, which I did not know, but it makes sense. She got married to Prince Harry 3 days prior so that she could have something private between her and Prince Harry because she knew that the wedding wasn't for her, it was for everybody else, which that's usually the case. Weddings are most likely not for you unless you're eloping and there's no one else there. But for the most part, weddings are for everybody else. It is. That's just how it is. But anyway, she went in real naive, thinking she was still gonna be Meghan Markle, I think, while still being the Duchess of Sussex, however you pronounce it. But actually, those two positions or those two characters repelled each other. And I really think she wasn't ready for that. Okay, so number one, she went in really naive. Number two, another thing that I gathered from the interview is that everything wasn't what it seemed. So I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a news article that came out about Meghan Markle. I think it was after the wedding that said that Meghan made Kate Middleton cry over some flower dresses for the wedding. Meghan confirmed it was actually the opposite. Kate actually made Meghan cry because I think Kate was upset about some flower girl dresses, and Meghan was going through a lot with the stress of the wedding and with her father clowning. That's a whole nother podcast episode, her father clowning. So she cried. Thankfully, Kate Middleton, she, apologized. But the story still came out that Meghan is the one that made Kate Middleton cry. And according to Meghan Markle, the story came out 6 to 7 months after the occurrence. And the palace did nothing. The institution, I should say. I want to make it uniform when I'm referring to the monarchy. So the institution did nothing when it came to that story. I know Meghan was saying that the institution has debunked stories for other members of the royal family for occurrences that are less serious. So she was surprised that they didn't do it for her, which that makes sense. If you know the truth, yeah, you need to speak up and tell the truth. But it seems like the palace and I keep saying the palace, the institution. Okay, we gonna get it together. So it seemed like the institution and the tabloids had some kind of relationship going on because Meghan confirmed that the tabloids were having parties at the palace. They were having parties. So it looked like the tabloids and the institution had some kind of weird relationship where, they kind of worked with each other as far as what stories would come out and which ones wouldn't. That's what I'm implying because ain't no way, you're having parties with somebody that you don't like or don't have some kind of relationship with. That's just not the case. So the institution knew exactly what they were doing when they let that story just go on the way it did. And of course, Meghan was seen as the villain, which is sad. But yeah, everything wasn't what it seemed. It seemed like the institution controlled her every move, which that kind of goes back to her being naive because I feel like she should have known that. I feel like she should have known that her life wouldn't be her own, that it wasn't just going to be some Cinderella happily ever after kind of story. I feel like she should have known like her voice would not be hers anymore. Her looks would not be hers anymore. The way she walked and talked would not be hers anymore. It would be all the institution. What the institution wants her to say, how the institution wants her to look, how the institution wants her to be. And like I said, I'm not familiar with the protocol with the royal family, but I can infer that because it makes sense. Everything that she does reflects back on the institution as a whole. So of course she's not going to be able to do what everything that she wants, everything that she did while in the United States, or everything that she did as an actress. That's just that's not the case. But it kind of bothers me that um, the institution allowed Meghan to be portrayed as this villain when she very well may not have been the villain. She very well may have been, the person that she displayed in the interview. And of course, I know that there are always two sides of the story and then the truth. But this I do believe. I do believe that there were certain stories that were said about her that depicted her as this villain when that wasn't the case. Okay. So, one, she went in naive. Two, everything wasn't what it seemed. Three, racism was a huge issue. Okay. We're going to stay on this for a minute. Okay. So, like I said before, Meghan Markle, she was, and if someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but Meghan Markle was the first person of color, the first African American woman to be a member of the royal family. So there's breaking barriers there. But even still, even though she was allowed that position, it's still unnerving for some that there is a Black woman that is a part of the royal family, because there never has been one ever. She's the first. So when you see a person of color, for some reason it gets people on edge. It just makes people nervous for whatever reason. I remember when she got married to Prince Harry, they were calling her all kinds of racist terms. And when I say they, I mean the tabloids and and such. So they were calling her monkeys and the N word, etc. It was just a lot. So we think that racism isn't a big thing, but it's a big thing in the United States. It's a big thing in the United Kingdom. It is a big thing everywhere. Okay. So it even affects children. Okay. So as you all may know, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have a child. They have another on the way, but they have a son. His name is Archie. Now, Archie, of course, is he doesn't have a right to the throne either, unless Prince William's family is completely wiped out, and Prince Harry, he, I guess, I guess, goes to the throne or passes away or whatever. So when you look at Archie, Archie looks white. Okay. He doesn't look in any shape or form black. Meghan Markle doesn't even look um, like a dark skinned African American woman. She's more fair. Okay. So in certain instances, she probably could pass for a Caucasian woman in certain instances. Um, but yeah, she's more on the lighter side. So with her being lighter, Prince Harry being, of course, white. Of course, they produced a, a fairer child, and he's more fair than his mother. Now, and I'm getting somewhere. So it is royal protocol, as far or under my understanding, it is royal protocol that members of the royal family, they are labeled as a prince or a princess, and they are given security. The institution decided that Archie would not be a prince or receive security, and that has been against the history of the royal family. There was no explicit reason why the institution was doing this. They just said it was being done, which is like troubling, okay? But what's even more troubling is what else they talked about. So, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle both confirmed that there were conversations with Prince Harry about how dark Archie would be and the implications from that. So, first of all, I'm trying to think, why would that matter since he's not going to be a prince? And maybe I'm just naive, but if he's not going to receive the title of prince anyway, and he's not next in line to be on the throne, then why does it matter? Okay, that's number one. And then two, has anyone ever like taken biology at all? And there's like that, I forget what you call it, but basically it's a square to determine like what genetic traits a child would have. It's like a tool that people use to determine the likelihood of what traits a child would get from their mother or father. Now you could tell that Meghan Markle, like I was saying, is really fair. She's a fair-skinned girl, a fair-skinned black girl. Okay. She is half black, half white. Okay. Prince Harry is white. He is a white man. Okay. When you put those two together, the likelihood of coming out with a dark child is pretty slim. It's very slim. So to have a discussion about how dark Archie would be, first of all, does it matter? Like, why does it matter? I mean, you already have an African American woman, as a member of the royal family. If that was going to be an issue, you should have told Harry when he said, "Hey, I want to marry this girl." You should have said no, because we don't want to taint, what we have, or say like, no, we don't want to do it because we don't want to cause a huge fuss if you guys have a child and the child turns out really black. Okay. So I feel like that discussion should have been had before they got married. But to have this discussion, and I hope Archie never hears that. I Bless his heart. I hope he never hears that. And he's so young, he's naive, he's innocent. I hope he stays that way, because that is terrible. Terrible that someone would even bring that up. And to me, quite, you know, somebody wasn't really thinking too clearly when they brought up that question, because biologically it doesn't make sense. Now if I was Prince Harry's wife and I'm dark skinned, yes, that should be a conversation. Like, okay, how dark is this child gonna be? We just need to know. Yeah, that would have been a conversation. But Meghan Markle, she's half white, so the odds of her child coming out chocolate are pretty slim. So I'm trying to figure out, why was this even a conversation and so late in the game? It was just irritating. Of course, when Meghan Markle and Prince Harry made their revelation, Oprah was like, "What?" Everybody was like, "What?" But this shouldn't be too surprising. As we all know, racism is not dead. It is very well alive and living and breathing very well. Okay. So This shouldn't be surprising, but it's still somewhat shocking when you hear people still talk about it because it's like we're in 2021. Come on, why is this still a thing? Or probably at that time it was 2019, 2020. It's like, why are we still talking about this? This is old. They did not reveal who said that. So they did not reveal who inquired into how dark Archie would be. But I could put some money on it that it was either Prince Charles or Prince William. Because Prince Charles, he kind of he seems like he's a trip. Now I'll just leave it at that. And Prince William too. They just both seem like they're two peas in the pod about being a trip. Okay. So I'm not surprised. So of course, Prince Harry, with Meghan Markle receiving all this backlash and now his child receiving all of this backlash, he is now finally understanding the racial biases and the disparity that is going on because it's just crazy. It is insane. And I'm glad he's seeing it firsthand. Okay, y'all, I have a few more things that I wanted to talk to you guys about pertaining to the interview. We're going to take a quick break right now, and then we'll come back and go over the last few. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about Goli gummies. Now, we all know that apple cider vinegar is the new health kick right now, okay? So you're supposed to take a shot or two in the morning. Some people take it 3 times a day, and you're supposed to get a lot of health benefits, such as losing weight, appetite control, etc. If you guys have ever taken apple cider vinegar shots, it is a very strong taste, okay? It's a very strong taste. It burns your throat when it goes down, just a whole nine. I used to take apple cider vinegar shots as well, and I just got sick of the taste. So I tried to find an alternative to it where I wouldn't lose the benefits, but the taste would be a little bit better. That's when I found out about Goli gummies. Now, Goli gummies, they are little gummies that has apple cider vinegar in it, and you get all of the same benefits of an apple cider vinegar shot. So the appetite control, the weight loss, etc. It's really tasty, so you don't have that burning sensation that's going down your throat every time you consume it. It's amazing. It comes in nice little packaging. They also have, you can also get an individual bottle if you want to try it, or you could do the 1 month supply, 3 month supply, or even a 5 month supply of these gummies. I take them every day and I love them. I try not to eat them as candy because they're just that good. If you want to take advantage of these gummies, I do have a special promo code for my listeners. You can go to go.goli.com/cfuller to get an additional 5% off your purchase. And there is nothing wrong with additional savings. I will take whatever I can get. So if you want to take advantage of these gummies, go to go.goli.com/cfuller to get additional savings. Okay, y'all, we're back. Okay, so let's dive into a few other things that I gathered from the interview. So already, just to recap, I gathered that number one, she went in naive. Number two, everything wasn't what it seemed. And number three, racism was a huge issue. Let's go to number four. Number four, mental health was not taken seriously. So Meghan, she went through a lot. She went through a lot with the tabloids and her family not protecting her. And not only the her um, her in-laws, but her biological family as well. So she had a twofold. So she was going through all of this, and then of course she was pregnant on top of that, at some point that she became suicidal. So at the point where she started thinking about taking her own life, she went to the institution for help. And they said no, they wouldn't offer any help because it wouldn't look good for the institution. So and of course, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, it wouldn't look good either for um it wouldn't look good for the institution either if one of the members of the royal family committed suicide. And more specifically, a black woman. Okay, that would have looked a lot worse. So I feel like that was a cop out. Um, they also said um, that I guess Meghan Markle wasn't on payroll for the institution, so they couldn't offer her anything, which I really don't know how that works. And maybe someone can explain that to me. But even still, she's a member of the royal family. She's doing um, things for the institution that reflects back on the institution. I don't know why she's not on the payroll. That don't make sense to me. But of course, if when I found that out that the institution did not give Meghan Markle any help, it just it just really put a bad light on the institution. I mean, they got a lot of mess to clean up. And of course, I know some people are thinking, well, maybe she could have checked in herself to a hospital. Maybe she could have checked into rehab herself. No, it wasn't like that if the institution is controlling every move that she made. Remember, Meghan Markle said in the interview when she got married, that was the last time she saw her passport, driver's license, and her car keys. So they took everything, okay? She didn't have anything to work with. So for the institution not to offer her any help, that just shows that mental health is not a priority for the institution. What's a priority for the institution is for them to look good and to be reflected in the best light possible, which is crazy. So you rather have a story come out about one of the members of your royal family committing suicide compared to one of your members of your royal family checking into rehab in order not to commit suicide. It's just like, what? Like who is the press secretary? Like who is coming up with these decisions? Like I need to know because they're just not making sense to me. And it just seemed like it really kind of promotes a narrative that the institution was giving Meghan a hard time. I'm not saying that they necessarily did because we don't really know their side of the story too much. But it's Meghan gave a good argument that the institution, it seems like the institution doesn't really care, which is sad. At least they don't care about her. I'll just leave it at that. Okay. So let's go to number 5. Another thing that I gathered from the interview is that you know who's really behind you once you set boundaries. So let's fast forward to the time when Harry and Meghan stepped down. So they both stepped down from their actor roles. Their security was cut off. Okay. The institution cut off everything. Meghan Markle, she begged the institution, like, okay, it's fine for my security to be cut off for me and my child. That's fine. But at least my husband, he's a prince. He inherited this role. Just please protect him. They was like, nope, that is it. We are done. Okay. Everything was cut off. And I think eventually all of his funds were cut off. Just everything was cut off, which, to a certain extent, that makes sense because if you're not actively doing your role, so you're not in active employment under the institution, it makes sense for them to say, hey, this your last paycheck, Playboy. That's gonna be it. But the cutoff security, um, it just seemed to be a little bit much. And I would say more specifically for Prince Harry, since he's royalty and, he didn't choose to be in this life, he inherited this life, and it just really seemed to put his life in danger. And it really looked, once again, it really looked bad on the institution too, because it's like, man, you ain't supporting your own people. Like, what is going on? So with all that, they were cut off from the institution because they decided to make a stand for what they believed in. So they didn't get support from the institution, which of course comprises of some of their family members, but they instead got support from an unlikely source. And this really blew my mind when I found this out. Apparently, Tyler Perry offered Prince Harry and Meghan Markle his home and security detail. So when the institution cut them off, Tyler Perry stepped in and said, hey, I know you're going through a tough time right now. Let me offer you what I have. So I'm going to offer you one of my homes, and I'm going to offer you some of my security details so that you can be safe. What? Once again, another slap in the face for the institution. Like, you can't take care of your own people, so you have to have a stranger, pretty much a stranger, come in and take care of a member of your family. Like, what kind of sense does that make? It just looks horrible. And I know that um the institution's foundation is tradition. I get that. But sometimes you gotta do what's right, not what's traditionally been done. Okay. And I feel like the institution is I feel like they're really going to get a dent in their reputation for doing this because that is ridiculous. Okay. Oh, and it gets worse. Let's keep going. So after a while, Prince Charles, he stopped taking Prince Harry's calls after discussing their exit strategy. Now remember, Prince Charles is Prince Harry's father. So his father stopped taking his son's calls about their exit. He stopped taking their calls. So of course Prince Harry, without saying it, basically said that their relationship is strained. Of course it is. Like, okay, that I'm putting my foot down because I'm trying to protect myself and my wife and my child. And now you're not taking my phone calls because I went against the grain, I went against tradition. Like, that makes no sense. I mean, at least step out of your role as a prince and step into father mode and say, hey, okay, this is my son. Let me see what I can do. No, he was like, I'm just going to stop taking calls because I'm just annoyed. And like I said, Prince Charles, he just looks like that type of person. He looks like he's a trip. He looks like he's a trip and a half. And it's just sad that he kind of estranged himself from his son like that based on him doing something that he didn't approve of. I feel like there's children are always going to do something that you don't approve of. Okay? But you don't cut them off. You support them in whatever decision that they make. Of course, if it's like murder or something like that, something that's threatening the life of another, then of course you don't support your child in that. But if they're doing something for their family that they believe is best, you support them. Of course, Prince Charles did not do that. So this is sad to it was sad to hear. It wasn't surprising, but it was still sad. Okay. So just to recap, um, things that I learned from the interview. Number one, Meghan Markle went in naive. Okay, she went in with her nose open. Number two, everything wasn't what it seemed. Three, racism was and is still a huge issue. Number four, mental health was not taken seriously by the institution. Number five, you know who's really behind you once you set boundaries. And then the last thing that I gathered from this interview is that Harry supports his wife. Okay. Meghan Markle, she told this story about how she was really contemplating suicide and she was having these thoughts about how she was going to do it. And she gathered the courage to tell her husband. And she said that when she told her husband, that he hugged her and just kind of supported her in that moment. They had to go to an event like right after she told him. He told her, like, maybe you should stay home. She said, no, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. There was a picture that was taken of them at this particular event. A friend of Meghan's sent that picture to her and was like, oh, you guys just look so good. What Meghan saw was that, hey, what she saw in the picture rather was, hey, I just told my husband I commit suicide. I'm distressed. And the way that Prince Harry was holding her hand, it was like he was clenching it for dear life. Like, I really need to protect my wife. So he's just really protective and very supportive. And for him to lose his title, lose security, lose money for this woman just says a lot. That says that he's a provider, that says that he's very supportive, that says that he's willing to do whatever it takes in order to protect his family. And that says a lot. That says a lot, especially with the traditions that he grew up in. I remember him saying, like, hey, media outlets, you did my mama like that. You ain't about to do my wife like that. And that was like, that was a G move to make. He, he's just it just shows that he really loves his wife and he's willing to do anything to protect her and to protect his family. And I think that Prince Harry deserves brownie points for that. And yeah, and maybe I'll overlook the whole Nazi thing. I'm kidding. I'll never overlook the Nazi thing that he did, but it just shows that he really loves his wife and he supports her in any capacity, even though that even though that support may be to his detriment. So I really admire him for that. Okay, so that's all that I have for you guys today. What did you guys think about the interview? Let me know in the comments, or you can let me know via email at mindofmillennials@gmail.com. Make sure you like our Facebook page, The Millennial Mind, and our Instagram page, The_Millennial Mind. Also, if you want to support this podcast, the link will be below. If you really love this podcast and want to see or listen to more episodes and for it to keep going, make sure you support this podcast. That's going to be in the show notes below. Also, I do have a blog out there. It's called What Makes You So Special. Make sure you read that. The link to that blog will be in the show notes as well. Also, as another announcement, remember that I do have a new podcast coming out called Dear Black Jesus. This podcast is basically a modern day twist on Dear Abby and Strawberry Letters. So make sure you follow us on Instagram at dear_black_Jesus for more information on that. Okay, y'all, before I leave, I wanted to give you guys a quote, and this is from Meghan Markle. So she says, as you get older, you become more comfortable in your skin and comfortable in saying no to things. I've also learned that saying no is just as valuable as saying yes. It's something that I think comes with age and really having a sense of your self worth. And then you make choices based on that. Well, I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. And until next week, I will talk to you guys soon.